You meet her at a small jazz cafe in Shimokitazawa. She's quiet, sharp-eyed, and laughs behind her hand at your terrible Japanese. 3 weeks later, you're still not sure if you're dating or just really good friends who text every day. What you don't realize is that in Japan, dating isn't a status you slide into. It's a door someone has to formally open, and right now you're still standing outside it. You've been on 4 dates: dinner, a museum, a walk through Yoyogi Park, another dinner. By your home country's standards, you'd already be calling her your girlfriend. Here, you're not even sure you've cleared the friend zone. You mention this to your coworker who just laughs and says one word, kokuhaku. You have no idea what that means yet. You're about to find out it means everything. The confession happens on a bench near Meiji Shrine. She's quieter than usual, fidgeting with her sleeve. You brace for bad news. Instead, she takes a breath and asks if you'll go out with her, officially. You almost laugh because you thought this was already happening. You learn very quickly that in Japan, nothing is official until someone says it out loud. Before this moment, you were two people having dinner. Now you're a couple. The switch flips instantly and completely. You go in for a hug and she stiffens slightly, glancing around the park. You back off, confused. She explains gently that public affection isn't really a thing here, not the way you're used to. Holding hands, sure, anything more, and you're the foreigner making a scene. You spend the next few weeks recalibrating your entire physical instincts. No arm around the shoulder on the train, no kiss goodbye at the station. You start reading the room before you even reach for her hand. Texting becomes its own psychological exercise. You send a message at 2 p.m. The reply comes at 9 p.m., 3 words, perfectly polite. You spiral a little, wondering if you said something wrong. Your friend, who's been dating a Japanese woman for 2 years, tells you to relax. Work comes first here, always. Being glued to your phone during office hours isn't just rude, it's borderline scandalous. You learn to stop checking your phone every 5 minutes and just trust that the silence isn't a message. Then comes the day she invites you to her apartment. You think nothing of it, you've hung out at each other's places before. Your buddy back home raises an eyebrow over video call and tells you that in Japan, an invitation home is rarely just an invitation home. You realize you've been walking through several relationship milestones without even noticing the signs were there. Money and gifts operate on their own quiet logic. Valentine's Day rolls around and she hands you a small box of chocolate, slightly embarrassed. You assume this is romantic. She clarifies it's honmei choco, the real kind, reserved just for you, as opposed to the polite obligatory chocolate she also gives coworkers. You had no idea there was a chocolate hierarchy. A month later, White Day arrives and you're expected to reciprocate, ideally with something worth 2 or 3 times what she gave you. You did not see this coming. You scramble to a department store the night before, panicking in the gift-wrapping aisle. You meet her friends for the first time at an izakaya, and the group date energy is unmistakable. Everyone is polite, everyone is warm, but nobody says anything remotely direct about how they feel about you being there. You spend the whole night trying to read subtext through smiles and nods. Later, she tells you they liked you. You ask how she could possibly tell. She just shrugs and says you get used to it. You start picking up fragments of 2 words that seem to explain everything, hana and tatemai. Hana is what someone actually feels. Tatemai is the polite version they show the world. You realize entire conversations you've had were tatemai, and you've been taking them at face value the whole time. Once she explains this, you start replaying old interactions in your head like you're decoding a cipher. Nothing you thought you understood is fully off the hook. Meeting her parents is its own event. You expected nerves, maybe a stiff dinner. What you get is silence you can't interpret. Her father barely speaks to you the entire meal. You panic, certain he hates you. Afterward, she tells you he was pleased, that quiet approval is still approval. It just doesn't come with a smile and a handshake the way you're used to. You spend the train ride home rewriting your entire read of the evening. Apartment life with her reveals a level of order you were not prepared for. Shoes off at the door, no exceptions. Trash sorted into categories you didn't know existed. Burnable, non-burnable, recyclable, and a schedule for each that she has apparently memorized since childhood. You put a plastic bottle in the wrong bin once. She doesn't yell. She just quietly moves it, and somehow that's worse. Work-life balance becomes a genuine obstacle. She has late nights at the office that aren't really optional, drinks with colleagues that function as unspoken professional obligation. You wait at home more than you expected to. It's not neglect, you come to understand, it's just how deeply work is stitched into daily identity here. You adjust your expectations and start filling those evenings with your own hobbies instead of sitting by the door. The language barrier shows up in small humiliations. You mix up a word and accidentally tell her mother you're delicious instead of happy to meet you. She doesn't laugh in front of her mother, but she laughs about it for a week afterward. You start taking Japanese lessons seriously, not because you have to, but because you're tired of being the punchline. Your first trip together, a weekend in Hakone, tests your patience for planning. She has the itinerary built down to the minute, train times, ryokan check-in, dinner reservations, all decided weeks in advance. You suggest winging it a little. She looks at you like you suggested juggling knives. You learn that spontaneity is not really a shared value here, and honestly, by the end of the trip, you don't mind. Everything ran perfectly. You didn't have to think once. The seasons start dictating your relationship in ways you never expected. Cherry blossom season means Hanami under the trees with a picnic blanket and her entire friend group. Summer means fireworks festivals in Yukata, and she spends 40 minutes helping you tie yours correctly while gently mocking your posture. Autumn means quiet walks through Kyoto for the leaves. Winter means illumination lights and a very specific kind of romantic pressure around Christmas Eve, which here functions less like a family holiday and more like the most important date night of the year. A year in, you attend a friend's wedding with her and finally recognize the rhythms. You bow at the right moments. You know not to clap too loud. You understand the silences now instead of fearing them. An older relative comments that you seem very settled for a foreigner. You're not sure if that's a compliment, but you decide to take it as one. The fights, when they come, look nothing like the fights you're used to. She doesn't raise her voice. She goes quiet. And you have to learn to read the quiet instead of waiting for an explosion that's never coming. Your first real one is about exactly this, you accusing her of shutting down, her insisting she's just processing before she speaks. You both agree to check in more openly. It takes months of practice before it stops feeling like translation work. Somewhere around year 2, the small rituals stop feeling foreign and start feeling like yours. You take your shoes off without thinking. You sort the trash correctly on the first try. You read her silences the way you used to read her words. You stop counting how many chocolates she gives her coworkers versus you because you already know the answer and it isn't close. Her friends stop treating you like the foreign boyfriend and start treating you like just her boyfriend, which is a shift you notice more than you expected to. You're sitting in her apartment on an ordinary Tuesday and she's marking your calendar with a shrine visit for New Year's, already planning 3 months out the way she always does. You used to find this exhausting. Now you find it steadying. She asks what you're thinking about. You almost say nothing out of habit, then decide to actually answer. You tell her you used to think love needed to look loud to be real, hands everywhere, words spilling out constantly. You know now that some of the deepest care you've ever felt has come from someone who barely raises her voice and still manages to make you feel completely certain of where you stand. She doesn't say anything dramatic back. She just reaches over, laces her fingers through yours under the kotatsu, and goes back to her planner. You realize you don't need the grand gesture anymore. The quiet has become its own kind of loud, and somewhere along the way you learn to hear it.